Drive Saga! Yeah, if you didn't see the other video, I kind of splurged a bit. But yeah, doing this from the raw because I just wanted to watch and talk about it straight up because I figured this was going to be a good one, and it was, so I'm just going to give the Cliff Notes version, partially because my understanding of Japanese is... I'm not fluent. I'm being straight up with you people about that. I do my research, I do have the basics, it's just that I'm not fully sound to understanding yet. I'm working on it. I am seriously working on it. But I do better written. Anyways, yeah, I really liked this, and especially since it was getting into Chase's character and his character aspects, and, you know, building off of what was already there from the show in a more expanded material, and yeah, it was pretty good on focusing mainly on him, but I did like the B-plot the other members of the cast were stuck in, since it was mostly focused on the Roid Mutes and specifically Chase. I want to kind of discuss the B-plot a bit first, because it's kind of entertaining in a weird way. Shinosuke, Go, and Kiriko are pretty much tied up with a case throughout most of the special that is a jurisdiction dispute on the edge of Tokyo, and the town that's bordering it, where they have the jurisdiction dispute, is with Futo City. Specifically, against Detective Ryu Terui, aka Kamen Rider Axel, and it is just fun because it gets all of his idiosyncrasies in, you know, character idiosyncrasies. You know, his idioms. He indeed does all his expected sayings. Don't ask me questions, and all of his battle cries, and the just unexpected quirks of the character that made him so admittedly kind of a dick, but also fun in Kamen Rider Double. Because I really like Kamen Rider Double. I know I haven't reviewed it much or discussed it much, aside from Kamen Rider Tyson, because it was kind of, you know, past the window where I started doing the vlogs, and I haven't gotten to that point yet in my Toku reviews, and now I'm just kind of babbling. But yeah, it's really fun to see them play off of each other, and what's amusing about this is Ryunosuke Kamiki, the actor who plays Shinosuke Tamari, actually asked if, hang on, I'm forgetting Ryu's actor's name, and I'm looking at the list. Minehiro Kinomoto. Yeah, I wouldn't have remembered that off the top of my head because I have a terrible time pronouncing his first name. I always have. But anyways, he specifically asked for him to be involved, and because he watched Kamen Rider Double, and he really liked Kamen Rider Double, like most of us. And, you know, it's a pretty obvious thing, especially since Riku Sanjo was one of the main writers of Double, to kind of ask him to come back for this, for a kind of canon in-series team-up. And it works pretty well, since they're two of the detective Kamen Riders playing off of each other. Something that irked me, but it also makes a bit of sense, is how Shinosuke doesn't actually know about Ryu's prior history as a Kamen Rider and the whole Gaia memory thing. I guess it's because, it was more of a need-to-know thing. I mean, the big Gaia memory, crime sprees have been over for half a decade, so it would... this is in show, of course. You know, Drive was the 16th Heisei Kamen Rider series. Double was the 11th. 5-year difference, give or take. So by the time that he would have been, you know, of a pay grade where that might have been a detail he might have ended up needing to know about the whole Kamen Rider thing. Well, it wasn't his jurisdiction, different cities, so not as big, and second, you know, kind of involved in his own stuff, and the most Kamen Riders kind of keep to themselves anyways, so it's not... I'm trying to rationalize why he would know about Axel to be surprised about when Terui actually transforms. Because the case they're on has a body found right at the edges of both cities, literally on the jurisdiction line. I'm sorry, I keep stumbling over that. But the body found is of someone copied by a Roidmute previously, specifically Roidmute 051, who had appeared twice before. Well, no, actually not twice before. Once before in the series in episode 3. It was a Roidmute chase as Machine Chaser destroyed their physical form, but left their core intact to allow them to be reset. I'll get back to this, but eventually Genbachiro just while they're fighting over who gets jurisdiction over the murder, since he was found with a Gaia memory on his body. Gaia memory crimes on Futo is grounds for Ryu to take it, while Shinosuke Roidmute connection kind of, needs to investigate that connection, and instead of joint investigations, they're kind of arguing over. Yeah, I'm keeping going back to the jurisdiction thing. I don't mean to, but it's not an uncommon thing to see in police and crime dramas to have that kind of situation pop up. It just seems odd that they were meandering over it as long as they were, as the V Cinema special takes place over a couple days. Now to be fair to Riku Sanjo, most of the stuff of their subplot happens on the same day. Just the timeline of them kind of putzing and doing nothing over this, not even argument, just not backing down to show weakness to the other. It irks me, and I don't know why. It's in part, I guess, because of the clash of personalities. Shinosuke trying to be respectful and getting lead on this, while Terui is his normal, I don't want to say standoffish, but stoic, pseudo-angry, don't ask me questions self. And it's amusing for a bit, until you realize how long they must have been, stumbling over each other like that. But when Genbachiro Ota discovers that the actual host, the actual one that was the core one that was copied was not dead, he had actually found him and arrested him, they realize that the one that they think is dead is actually another Roidmute that copied the same person. This is not unheard of, it's just a bit unusual, and, when they're told that, he literally just pops up, assumes his Roidmute form, and grabs the Gaia memory to assume the Beastopat form. So they only need to make one new Roidmute suit. They only need to make one new Roidmute suit for the movie. And you know what? I'll give them that, because I like seeing cross continuity and this kind of respectful. It's one whole universe, and outside of terrible crossover events and Kamen Yongo, you rarely see that. Okay, not just Kamen Yongo, the movie war films too, since Riku Sanjo's the only one of them of the writers of the crossover events that's good at it. He seems to be at least aware and respectful of the other sides of things, like some of the other writers that have gotten in on it. So yeah, we get a pretty nice Drive, Mach, and Axel team-up fights, and it sees all the things we want to see, like Ryu pulling out his ridiculously heavy engine blade, and even before transforming, he's slashing at the dopant and knocking it back with, despite he can barely hold the thing with how heavy it is before he transforms. And they even keep consistent, and I really liked his acting in the he's done this before in Double, where he's holding the sword straight up and he's struggling to hold it, while he's also doing the whole transformation thing with his Gaia memory and his Axle driver. I noticed in his transformation sequence that his movements are a bit, they're out of practice, because he kind of fumbles with the motion to put it in his driver a bit, and I'm surprised they went with that take when they edited the V Cinema, as it seems kind of a bit unprofessional to go with that take. I don't know, maybe the other ones were worse, or they were running short on time, so they had to take what they had, or maybe they didn't realize it. Speaking of, Hidenori Ishida, one of the long runners and very good directors of Kamen Rider, he's been a director with the series since Kuga, and there's barely been any Kamen Rider series that has not had him with some directorial work on it. Drive, when I looked at his bio earlier, did not appear to have any credits for him doing that. Maybe he took off last year. I don't think he's done any for Ghost either, but his direction definitely helps sell almost all of the scenes in this V Cinema. The main plot with Chase, though, is, like I said, it's exploring his character, and it's kicked off with, I mentioned before, Roidmude 051. And it kind of goes into the history with the character a bit by going back through all of Chase's appearances and major storyline bits, starting with one we didn't see before, of how Krim asked him to help him against his brethren when he learned that they had been corrupted by Bono's megalomania. You know, he corrupted their emotional states to make them the violent enemies of this series. So, you know, it's kind of I get the implication from how he recruited him is that they were going to stop them, not exactly eliminate them, and then when the whole evolution thing for them started happening, they lost that kind of opportunity. But yeah, it's nice to see the prequel recruitment scene, as we didn't really know how Chase came to be Proto-Drive. It wasn't really that... Okay, it was kind of a relevant thing in the series, but after the revelation of him being Proto-Drive, and we get the major parts of it, I guess, in the main series, so it kind of felt like an afterthought that you didn't necessarily need it, but it's nice to have. Especially since Chase pretty much became the breakout character of the show. Anyways, Roidmude 051. The thing we've had with him before is an obsession with money. That's all that really was to him. But in a flashback that didn't exist before, with his initial encounter with Proto-Drive, showed that, yeah, he had the same obsession. And now, in the modern time, this is right after the events of episode 40 and Kamen Rider Drive Surprise Future, and set before episode 41, as Medic has not super evolved, and Bono has not done what he taken over the body of Roidmude. I think it was 06 to become Gold Drive yet. There was this time skip period in that window right there where a lot of Roidmudes were eliminated, and we knew this before, that this would pretty much from when the V Cinema was being first teased at, that this would probably be where it fell, since we had seen so many Roidmudes not be destroyed as of yet. So that totally makes sense in the timeline placement. And one of Riku Sanjo's other good bits as a writer is his adherence to continuity, in that things make sense chronologically, they don't contradict with each other, and he can do time skips and dime jumps usually pretty well. Anyways, Chase encounters 051 trying to take a heist for money. Not a heist for money, but pretty much breaking into a what are those called? Armored truck to steal money. And I'm amazed he never became the Greed Roidmude and used that as a means of super evolution, because desire is a legitimate emotion. Anyways, in the battle, Roidmude 051 turns his hand into a cannon, and while Chase fights him off, he manages to shoot a bystander, and we get blood in here. Big spouts of blood, which more informs that the rather lack of it in the main series when such instances could occur and we only get a small spattering, yeah, that's because of television censorship and all that. So, honestly, it's a lot more restrained than the clips people have sent me with Amazons, where it's just for the sake of gore versus actually serving a point in the story. Yeah, we've gone over this. I'm not doing Amazons. So anyways, because this person is injured despite his efforts, Chase kind of sort of tries to get close to them, because when he goes to see her initially in the hospital, he starts getting reminded of Kiriko with her, and this kind of serves as a pseudo lead-in to the late series Did I Fall in Love with Kiriko plot with Chase. As in, he fell in love with Kiriko, and it wasn't reciprocated, and was kind of sad, but it still came out of nowhere because he didn't show those kinds of emotions before. And the key to that is that it's not that he didn't have them before, and, you know, sounding angry was the only state he could be in. It's just that he was not able to express them properly. That was a flaw in his emotional programming as a Roidmude, in that he didn't know how to express what feelings he did have. Aside from anger, because he could get quite heated and, you know, shocked. And it was kind of a restrained, stoic style of acting for the most part in Drive for Taiko Kotono. That is Taiko Kotono. I have terrible memory with actors. You know this. So during this, he ends up also encountering the woman's younger brother, and, you know, like Kiriko, he relates the younger brother kind of to Go, except the younger brother, Hiroshi, is kind of ridiculously shy to the points of... No, not to the point of... He is an extremely introverted person. So, after he fails to really kind of connect with them due to his stoicism, being seen as aloofness, disinterest, he encounters the villain of the special, the Angel Roidmude, who attacks him with a feather. It's something that he grabs and it pierces his skin, and it does something to him, and it allows him to be a lot more expressive, and from the implications, it pretty much fixes the data problems with the Roidmude's mimicry, and effectively turns his human shell fully human, even to the point he bleeds later in there, even though it's supposed to be a illusion. Yeah. But right after he's infected, Angel, who is taken on the form of someone who is a psychiatrist, so, you know, kind of explains the full mental, physio-psychological elements here and exploring those elements of Chase, while also, you know, through the meta of the narrative, allowing to compare that with his inner voice. You know, we get to hear his thoughts in the V-Cinema. But the way that his emotions are first unlocked to be expressive is Angel undressing and doing the same to Jace. It is exactly what you think. Yes. Don't have sex with robots. Just, no. That only leads to bad things. So yeah, after that, next day, main day most of this takes in, Chase shows himself as really happy. Of course, he is really happy, he just got laid. And, you know, encounters the rest before they're on their get to work. So, as in they're at the cafeteria before their shifts all start, and they're all drinking things. And this seems a bit weird because Krim is also drinking from a saucer pan of milk, and it'd been... Okay, it would not have been established yet, that episode hadn't happened yet, but it's established that Krim, as, you know, the driver, cannot actually ingest any type of foodstuff or drink, and that was kind of a big plot point of an episode which would have chronologically followed this, and it just seems weird, and it's only there for the sight gag, and it really didn't need to be there for the sight gag, because the sight gag is they all freak out from Chase being expressive, and they do literally the world's longest spit take, where Shinosuke and Kiriko both do the spit take at the same time into Ghost's face. And considering they later get into a relationship, admit their feelings to each other, you know, it's kind of like they're so actually alike in all of these minutiae of expressiveness, and it's actually really funny until you realize they held on the choke too long at the expense of Yu Inaba. I gotta give props to Yu Inaba for actually not managing to... he has no expression during the entire scene. It's like entirely deadpan and restrained, and it just makes the entire thing even funnier because this is not the reaction you expect from people doing a spit take on you. I mean, when me, Matt, and John did the MagFest trilogy of reviews, I had actually planned a spit take thing in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers video. And while we ended up only doing one take of that, since I'd done spit takes before, I was actively conscious to avoiding things you don't want to hit, like other people. And I just remembered when we did that, him flinching back in surprise because, you know, since I turned slightly right to do that take, it's like, yeah, no, I don't want to get this on me. And I remember us kind of having to cut his reaction from the follow-up to that, because even when you're expecting it, you're not really expecting it. At least the follow-up is good with them trying to tell him off, and this is one of the better visual gags of the cinema. Anyways, from there, he really starts to hit it off with Hiroshi and the girl whose name is Hinako. I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia page now, because that helps me a lot with this, and, you know, getting to know them on a personal level now that he's not so restrained and thus suspicious, and this is where Roidmid051 comes in, and we find out that due to what Angel did with the feather, it prevents him from transforming into Kamen Rider Chaser. I'm not entirely sure why, because I kind of, like, Krim was talking too fast in that for me to really get all the details from what was likely his explanation, but it pretty much screwed over the interfacing for the driver. So this is once again an example of... Actually, this is probably showcasing something about the Chaser signal bike that makes it normally unusable by humans. Because Shinosuke had the same problem in Surprise Future. So I guess it's just even more showcasing why Go was special to finally get the damn thing to work by a human, when even Chase, in his full human form, would not be able to get it to work. And that's when the Rhino Super Viral Core is introduced, and damn, man, Chase is absolutely savage when he's first uses this. I mean, livid, and This has probably helped that now they can express emotions. It's not just his voice, but his body language that showcases him as visibly angry, and it makes the whole sequence of him utterly wrecking Roidmude 051's in his entirety and actually destroying him this time. In fact, since the rhino horn extends into a blade that sticks out, like, massively, it's kind of really noticeable that they just stuffed a additional prop onto the end of this to get it to work right, because it doesn't line up at all. He cuts off the Roidmude's arm, and okay, I could see this because I ran it on my PS3 and since, yeah, that's how I have to use any foreign Blu-rays, because they're region-free. PS3 is region-free. Anyways, because I could see when they like tore the arm off, they kind of hid everything behind smoke and, you know, kind of distorted the image a bit. But he could still see, since it was supposed to be a ripped-off arm, that the suit actor was literally holding up his full arm, and with just his fingers sticking out of the normal Roidmude suit. And, you know, I guess that with how it's made less visible, it kind of works as, you know, the cybernetics of the internal cybernetics of the arm just, like, flailing, since they're robots. Yeah. But for me, I kind of felt it was a bit too noticeable. So after this happens, we meet Angel, and Angel is super evolved, of course, but they used Medic's Roidmude form for it. Like, they modified the actual Medic Roidmude suit for this, and I feel it works, but it's just pretty obvious that they just added on top of the base for it. It makes me wonder if all the female Roidmudes would have actually formed similar to that, but considering that's only 2 that have super evolved, not super evolved, evolved into states like that, it's questionable. But yeah, Angel doesn't exactly align with Heart's ambitions, instead absorbing other Roidmude cores into herself to kind of indoctrinate them in a different way than what is expected, kind of a roundabout way to make them compassionate and realistically human, but not in a way that Heart approves of. So she attacks the normal Roidmudes of the show, and Heart, Brain, and even the super evolved Chase aren't exactly capable of taking her down due to the other cores supporting herself. And it's kind of an interesting couple scenes with the fights, as she produces these energy discs which can both damage and then capture the cores at the same time. And she manages to do this with Hearts, and it's like, it leaves his body completely inert. And this reminded me of what happened with Bono when he stole Roidmude 06's body, and, you know, kind of destroyed the core without destroying the body, but that left the super evolved powers in it. And now I'm just questioning, if this is part of the series canon, I'm imagining a series of events where Bono took advantage of that to actually take Heart's body as what he would use for the Gold Drive form. I mean, it was pretty much inert at that point, and the only thing keeping it from an easy access was Brain still being around to defend it. And we get a few more signs also in this with the ski plot of the whole Brain and Medic thing that was more featured in Drive, while Medic is trying to research ways to super evolve since she hadn't done that yet. in the series, and is... Actually, that's kind of weird in and of itself, in that she's reading romance movies... Not reading romance movies. Reading romance novels and watching... I think at one point she was watching porn. That was the odd implication of that, but it didn't get weird. It could have just been a... It could have been like a romance movie, but it's like... She was way too into it. Also karaoke, because... I don't know, karaoke. But the brain part of it is that it's kind of a more obvious subtext that Brain is in love with Heart and doesn't just... yeah. So anyways, after making sure that Heart's body is going to be fine, Chase pretty much goes to fight her, and it's not in the standard fighting sense in that it's pretty much a running fight where she has the advantage and he needs to avoid her attacks until he can find the right opportunity. And this is, of course, where the Shinosuke and Go B-plot wraps up, and they come to help but don't really get much of a chance to, due to Chase being on a motorcycle and Type Trineron's unusable since Shinosuke is fused with it. I said Type Trineron instead of the Trineron card, didn't I? Yeah, he's using Type Trineron. Oh, another bit of this. We actually finally see the Trineron shift car interface with the Formula cannon here, and it's actually pretty good effect for the most part, since that's one of the ones we didn't get to see in the show itself. But yeah, because they are far, far behind the final confrontation, it's actually a few minutes long, and getting there on foot after following Chase on his bike would not be the easiest thing, but pretty much the climax is because of Angel's feather and his human state, he can't fight her at the full Chomashin Chaser ability, since she created the Super Viral Core. She created the trappings and pretty much made it so that the Roidmude's own Shinigami would not be able to kill her, except if he gave up his humanity. Yeah, this is probably the most bloody and graphic the movie gets, but he literally has to dig out the feather from his flesh to allow his Roidmude programming to reassert itself, and they really managed to sell it and reflect the underlying tragedy that this is what the Roidmutes wanted. He legitimately was one of the Roidmutes that got the closest to truly becoming human, and now we see that he had the opportunity to truly be human, and gave it up. And all in order to help his fellow Roidmutes against someone that was going to manipulate and reprogram them as had been done, and why they were rebelling in the first place. And it's a tragedy. But yeah, he transforms into Chaser, and wave of finishing moves, one after the other, to finally shut down the Super Evolved Angel and free all the other Roid mutants from her. Admittedly, the rest of them would end up getting destroyed eventually, but that's neither here nor there. And it's kind of a morose way to end it, with Chase just driving off on his motorcycle, set to... I don't remember what the song is off the top of my head, but it's, of course, another excellently performed song by Mitsuru Matsuoka. So yeah, this is a great V-Cinema. Definitely better than the ones we had from Gaim, as though those could only tell a abridged story as... well, not exactly abridged, it was the length of 2 episodes in and of themselves. But I think it was more I think they knew what to do with it better than the four for Gaim. Well, not four, you know, two via cinemas split into two halves with two stories per each one. You know what I mean. And the length really does help it in telling a cinematic feeling story, despite getting all the common elements to it. I don't want to say I like it better than Surprise Future, as I really feel Surprise Future is a good, pretty good representation of Drive as a whole, but I feel it's better than the early Chase stuff, where it was just, you know, spinning its wheels, repeating all of it, and more reflective of the merits of Late and Drive, just paced better, since, you know, Drive started off slow and then really started to pick up speed and then raced for the finish line. Because despair awaits you across the finish line. Yeah, I had to get another one of Axel's quotes in here. So yeah, check it out when it gets subbed. It's worth the time to watch. It's almost an hour and a half, which is, yeah, it's long for V cinemas and just general Toku movies and the like. Also, check out the accompanying video where I kind of go over the stuff with the brake gunner. Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.